Hi guys and girls, I'm Karel, Seekers of the Story Department, and I feel another rant coming because I'll be talking about some pretty useless screenwriting advice. Next, I'm going to show you a short clip from the MPR, the midpoint reversal of The Disaster Artist, one of my favorite movies of the year. And if you don't know what an MPR or a midpoint reversal is, don't worry, I will try and explain it to you. So, bad screenwriting advice. There's no shortage of it on the internet, and when you're starting out, it's hard to distinguish between what is actually useful and what isn't at all. So, suppose you're a newbie and you read the line, "Just tell a great story," because that was someone's advice in response to a wannabe screenwriter genuinely asking about how to write their screenplay, their first script. Just tell a great story. Now that's misleading in three ways, and I think it's also plain wrong. First of all, that word just. There's no just about screenwriting. Screenwriting is tough. It's difficult, it's hard, it takes time. And all those courses that promise you that you'll have a marketable screenplay in 30 days or even, 3 months, it's very misleading because it won't happen. You may finish a screenplay in a month, and I'm an advocate of that. I think it's good to finish a screenplay quickly and then do rewrites. But the average development time is over 1 year, and when you're starting out, it'll probably be longer than that. In an earlier video here on the Story Department channel, you heard writer-director Tony DeCino telling us how the development of his horror feature The Furies took between 2 and 3 years, and that was exceptionally short. So there's no just about screenwriting. That was the first reason why I think this advice is completely useless. Second way, misleading, because it sounds like you just tell a great story. You don't have to worry about anything else, which means that there's no technique involved. Either you have it or you don't. You were born with a talent. You are a genius, or you better stop. Wrong again. Most successful screenwriters will tell you that they learned the craft over the years. Mostly they learned from doing it, from writing and rewriting and getting feedback. Over the years, from that feedback, they would develop strategies and their own principles, their own rules of what works and what doesn't work. But ultimately, it is learnable. So it's not a talent that you need to be born with. If anything, maybe coming up with great concepts, maybe that's an aspect where some luck is involved. But from there, you can develop a process and you can refine that process and become better and better at it. So it's not just tell a great story. And finally, that statement makes it sound like there's only story about it and nothing else. Now, screenwriting is about developing and delivering a screenplay, and that's a script in a very particular format. So you can come up with a great story in your head, and you may be able to tell that story perfectly to your friend in 10 minutes or even an hour, but that's not a screenplay. In order to make it in our industry, you also need to be capable of communicating your ideas in screenplay format, and that, if anything else, is bound to very strict rules. So there you go. Pretty useless advice. End of rant. Okay, and to finish up this video, we have a clip from the midpoint reversal in The Disaster Artist. So what is the midpoint reversal? Midpoint, so it's somewhere halfway the film. Why is it a reversal? It's because things become different. I usually say there is a reversal of fortune. The things that happen to the main character turn from better to worse. And there's also a reversal of action. So the response to that is going to be different. Where you have an inciting incident or a call to adventure in the first act, the transformational hero, that's a character who changes or learns in the course of the story, will respond to this inciting incident or a call to adventure in a dysfunctional, in a flawed way. Then again, at the midpoint reversal, something major happens to them, and then they'll respond in the correct way. So where does this midpoint reversal sit in The Disaster Artist? First of all, you need to know what that movie is about. I'm not going to explain the plot. You can look that up. It's about the classic cult flop, The Room, and how that turned out to be a success for reasons that were entirely unexpected. But it is essentially the story of two men. Tom Wiseau, the writer-director of the film, and Greg Sestero, his friend who helped him make the film. And it's an adaptation of the book that Greg Sestero wrote, and it is notoriously difficult to adapt books, and particularly when they're based on true events, which in this case it's a true event. So it's about the making of this movie, The Room. Now, some authors have said that if you struggle with structure, then bring a love story into the picture, and that's what The Disaster Artist is essentially. It's a love story, it's a buddy movie, it's a bromance between Tommy Wiseau and Greg. And who's the main character? Well, they both have kind of their own journey, but if you analyze the film properly, if you see who went through the greatest change, or who was facing the greatest inner challenge, I would say it's Greg Sestero, because he becomes friends with this bizarre character, Tommy Wiseau, then learns that he may not have as much to offer as he thought initially, and his way of filmmaking is not as straightforward or even successful as he was expecting. So when everything kind of starts to fall apart, the friendship is challenged, and that's what the film is really about. It's about a friendship that's challenged, and then I won't spoil it here for you, but I'm going to spoil the midpoint reversal, because that, to me, locks in what this film is essentially about, both in the outer journey, in the physical world, and what we see, what the characters pursue consciously, and also the inner journey, which is the psychological transformation and the growth. So, somewhere in the beginning of Act 2, they start a production of the film The Room, and face enormous obstacles, because Tommy Wiseau is not a skilled filmmaker, to say the least. And at some point they are doing take 67 of a very simple scene, where Tommy Wiseau, who also plays the main character in the film, has to deliver only a few lines, and he can't get it right. And Greg is sitting there and he sees it all fall apart, but he doesn't give up. He's going to help his friend. So let's have a look at this particular scene, and then I'll give you some commentary to it, and I'll show you how it is essentially the key to the structure and the outer and inner journey in this film.
It's not true. I did not hit her. It's bullshit. Ah. All right, I'm gonna fucking try something. I don't know.
So there's Greg,
Hey.
and he's going to help his friend.
Okay, maybe just use this. You know, I think it'll help you take your mind off. Hey, listen. What do you always say to me? All right, intensity, show emotion, throw it, do something crazy, use the bottle. Yes. That's the easy part. Why don't you say that to me before, Greg? I don't know. I didn't say Greg. These other guys, these other people, they don't care like you care, you know? I care, yeah. Okay, we do this together. Me and you, man, you got this. Show emotion. Yes. Okay. Do it. All right.
It's probably the most quoted scene from the whole film, The Room.
Got a bottle now. Look out.
And there we go for the final time.
I did not hit her. It's not true. It's bullshit. I did not hit her. I did not. Oh, hi, Mark.
And he does it.
Yeah! Yeah! I got it!
Excitement. This is a big victory.
You got that? Okay, moving on now.
It's the midpoint of the film, and it feels as if everything's going well. Now, this is a classic Sex at 60, the love scene. A fantastic James Franco as Tommy Wiseau in The Disaster Artist, based on The Room, the movie The Room. The script for The Disaster Artist was written by Scott Neustadter and Mike Webber, based on the book by Greg Sestero and Tom Bissell. Now, structurally, what happens in the film? So in the second act, the goal is to finish the film. The obstacles in the first half of Act 2 are primarily physical. They're practical obstacles. And right after the midpoint reversal, that changes. There's an obstacle that is more personal, that challenges the friendship. Now, here is how the film is structured on the thematic level. So for Greg Sestero, it's about his friendship with Tommy Wiseau. And we see in the first act of the film that he meets Tommy, and then he starts his friendship pretty much out of self-interest because he sees an opportunity to further his career. And that's why he becomes friends with Tommy Wiseau. Now, I'm going to spoil something for you. So if you haven't seen the film and you don't want to be spoiled, then don't listen to the rest of this video. But I'll only spoil a few minutes past the midpoint reversal. I won't give the ending to you. But right after the midpoint reversal, Greg Sestero gets an opportunity. He meets Bryan Cranston, who needs a character that looks very much like Greg for a shoot of for an episode of Malcolm in the Middle. So he has this amazing opportunity, this amazing career opportunity. And by this time, he's realized that the room is, not what he'd expected. And working with Tommy Wiseau is very different from what he expected. So now he'll need to make a decision. And that decision will be pivotal to the friendship. And so that's where that midpoint reversal comes in. First half of the film, the challenges are practical. Second half of the film, they're more deeply emotional. So that's when it becomes tougher and a little bit more serious and a little bit darker. But at the same time, the film stays funny. And I think that's the enormous achievement of the screenwriters, to write an incredibly entertaining film and at the same time deliver two profound character journeys. So if you haven't seen it already, go check it out. If you have already seen it, watch it again and analyze it, because that's how you really learn, by watching films more than once and trying to crack the code. And if you're interested in reading the script, I'll put a link down below this video so you can download it and watch it. Right, that was our video for today. I hope you didn't mind my rant too much. I think there'll be more coming in future videos because I've got another piece of advice that I would like to talk to you about, and it's about the first act. So maybe next video. If you want to see that, why don't you subscribe to this channel? I think we have 200 members right now, which is pretty exciting, and so maybe you can be number 201. Thanks for subscribing. Hoping to see you next time. Bye.